Okay, so here we go. We're about to play our top 16 match of the Premodern, CPL. Magic Online just updated, and there's all these little green arrows next to my deck list. I have no idea what that means, but we're about to get into it. All right. It does look like our opponent plays a variety of decks. Goblins in the last league, Tinkerfling, Elves, so this will be interesting. All right, so my opponent has serendipitously still won the die roll. So I don't know what happens if we lose a die roll in the CPL. And, you know, the higher seed gets the play. But, yeah, like I was saying before, I think you just restart it until you get the correct result. Okay, so there's some crazy updates here to this first main phase button. I guess it makes sense because you can't do anything anyway. But okay, some new things going on with Magic Online. It's worth Okay. Alright. Combat, man. Am I able to like F2 still? Okay. Cross step. This is really weird. Okay. So our hand seems really good against elves. We have all kinds of things going on. If I draw Ancient Tomb, I think I'm just gonna play the Adarkar Wastes here. Like, I'm trying to think if I draw Ancient Tomb, do I want to play Replenish? And I'm like passing through my turn here accidentally. But what I want to do is Swords to Plowshares this Landlore Elves. Now we have a little Wheel of Death. Crazy time for some Magic Online updates. Okay. A Wirewood Symbiote from the opponent. And a Quirion Ranger. Okay. Seal of Cleansing. I mean, I think it certainly is worth playing. So I'm going to crack for a Plains here. Drop the Seal. And so maybe we're just going to Intuition for a third land here. If the opponent plays a bunch of stuff, we can just Seal Wave them. And if they don't, we can just work towards Opalescence and Wave, Opal Wave. Taking some damage, that's cool. Alright, they just pass it on back. Oh, there's an Attunement. Okay, so I think I will just play the Attunement here. Rather than Intuition for a land. I would think in the next 4 land drops, I can find a land. Sorry, the next 4 draws. Because I get a draw step and then 3 off the Attunement. And then the thing is that we may hit Replenish. And so the opponent kind of really needs to win on their turn. Well, they could play Tanglewire, although we do have a Seal of Cleansing for that. Alright, so they're tapping for a bunch of mana from their Priest of Titania and untapping it. They're going to play like a Biorhythm right here? A Masticore. Okay, well that doesn't matter. So I think our opponent's in a pretty tough spot then. As it looks like they're not really going to be able to interact with us. And, you know, I haven't played against Elves a ton with Replenish, but I think this is a pretty favorable matchup. Okay, so we drew a land, so things are going okay here. So I could just wave their whole board here, but I guess I'll just activate the Attunement and try to draw Replenish. Parallax Tide. So let's discard a land, a Tide. I guess Tide doesn't seem super important. I think what we're going to end up doing here is Intuitioning for Replenish in their end step to win the game. So I'm just going to put stuff in the graveyard to kind of plan for that. So this all seems fine. I'll play Parallax Wave. So they do get to save an elf here. Thanks to their Wirewood Symbiote. Okay, so yeah, we're just going in. If their last card is survival, I think we can, we'll have enough here. It'll just take them a while to develop their board into a threatening situation, and that should give us time to intuition for a replenish. And so they did return the Priest of Titania. This yield to all instead of like an okay is a crazy thing to get used to. Okay. And if things go crazily wrong, we can just play another Parallax Wave. It looks like it's not going to come to that, though. Or what is this last card? Another Priest. Okay. So I could take the time just to play a Parallax Wave here and get my opponent's last two dudes out of the way. And I think that's actually worth doing. Well, I could just play this Frantic Search for free, and I guess that makes sense. Because we can at least discard the Attunement. Oh, see, we found the Replenish. So I'll just discard some of these. We won't forget to untap 3 lands. And here is the Replenish. All right, and the opponent concedes. Cool. So against our opponent's deck, it's like Biorhythm and Survival of the Fittest and Tangle Wire are the cards that matter. So I think some Annuls to answer Tangle Wire and Survival of the Fittest makes sense. Do I want to go down? I think maybe I'll just cut an Intuition. You probably do have some graveyard hate. And maybe 3 Annuls is enough, though. On the draw, though, it would be nice to answer Survival. I don't think we really do need Parallax Tide. This is not a matchup where Exalted Angel really does a lot. Like against Goblins, gaining that life is good, but Elves kind of goes wide in a different way. Some Elves decks play Rishadan Port, but I don't think it's worth bringing the one web on the off chance that they do. Maybe... I think this is fine. We'll just keep the 2 Tides. Tide's a pretty strong card to complete the lock of the game. But I think I do see, like, on the Replenish Discord that some people board out all the Tides in a matchup like this. All right, let's see. So the opponent, they did keep 7. So this hand can go turn 3 Parallax Wave, turn 4 Opalescence. Is that going to be good enough? I mean, it does do the thing, and it doesn't need the graveyard. And how much quicker can we hope to go? The thing is that Parallax Wave can buy some time if we played on turn 3. So I think I'm going to try it and see if we regret it. Aquarian Ranger, that's not a super scary start. Kind of suggests that maybe don't have more, like a Mana Dork would be much more scary, and then maybe they don't have more forests to play. All right, let's see, what land am I going to play? I think a Flooded Strand is fine, and I'll just crack for a Plains in their end step. All right, a Wirewood Symbiote, that's not too scary. Here's a Cradle, though. Maltani's Acolyte, I think we can live with that. So they're going to get in for 1 here. So if they're just trying to do Acolyte things, I think we'll make it to turn 3. All right, we're in the end step. I will crack for a Plains. And I'll start my turn. Adarkar Wastes. So I will play the Skycloud Expanse and pass. All right, so they're bouncing the Maltani's Acolyte with a Wirewood Symbiote to avoid the Echo. All right, they're tapping their forest and then redeploying it. So this saves the Cradle activation. Cradle will tap for 3 here. And a Priest of Titania. And a Tormod's Crypt. Alright, well, we don't need the graveyard to do our thing here, fortunately. Okay, so the risky thing about playing out the wave here is that they may just have a naturalize in hand. So I could play the Opalescence and pass. It doesn't really seem like I'm about to die. And then if they disenchant the Opalescence, we can just play the wave next turn, and that'll hopefully use up like the one disenchant that they have. It just doesn't seem like they're about to attack for the win. I guess we could get biorhythmed here. All right, so they do have naturalize. So I like how this worked out then. And then we'll play Parallax Wave and try to, you know, next turn, go for it over the next 2 turns here. Okay, so the opponent thinks for a bit and plays another Maltani's Acolyte, and that may draw them closer to another naturalize. Untap it, redeploy. Untap the priest and redeploy the Maltani's. Another crypt, that's fine. So they get in for 5 here. And they just pass the turn. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to play the Parallax Wave. And I think what I want to do is pass into their upkeep. And that way, if they naturalize it, it at least happens on their turn. And if they naturalize it, like on my turn, we can activate the wave in response and decimate their board. Maybe that doesn't work. I'm thinking about how waves work here. So they're tapping for a bunch of mana now, so that's a little worrying. We'll see what plan is. Yeah, what they need to do for this to work is for me to they need to activate in response to the wave activations. Okay. So yeah, this just is not going to do it. All right, well, maybe I should have mulliganed. I don't know how likely it is they hit like 2 naturalizes and 45 cards. And then they can just attack for 7 here. Okay, cool. So like one thing we could do is bring in Orim's Chant to play around their naturalizes. And that kind of gives me free reign to do my thing. But I mean, isn't Parallax Tide kind of like that, but better? I mean, they do seem to have a lot of graveyard hate. So I think boarding out Intuition makes sense. So what we've done is boarded out Tsabo's Web and the Intuitions for 4 Annuls. I think it's fine on the play. Like, Orim's Chant just doesn't seem that good. All right. Okay, we'll try to keep a more interactive hand here. Let's see this one. So it has a Swords to Plowshares. And then, like, Just Seal of Cleansing. And Opalescence. Like, replenishing Seal of Cleansing and Opalescence are not super exciting. Though they are answers for survival of the fittest, and we might draw into something. So this hand is like the opposite of the last one. Entirely questionable, it's just in a completely different direction here. I think we're really praying for the top of our deck to yield stuff. We don't need Swords to Plowshares for interactions so much on the play. So for those reasons, we're going to mulligan. Ugh, and this hand is like even worse. I think we're just going to mulligan again and just try to find a hand that does something. Okay, well this hand has 2 Swords to Plowshares to buy time with. Is that better than a mulligan to 4? I guess so. Maybe like the first hand was better than this, but yeah, these were a bunch of stinkers. Right, here's a Landlore Elf. Here's a Swords to Plowshares. Skycloud Expanse is certainly a start. It turns on all the blue cards in our deck. So like Attunement would be the best possible draw here. But it is possible that we could draw like Frantic Search and just hit good cards. Alright, I'll play the Ancient Tomb. Fyndhorn Elves. No Survival of the Fittest, that's good. Ancient Tomb. Doesn't help. Taking 1 from a Fyndhorn Elf. Passing the turn. So they must have a bunch of naturalizes in hand. And we are just bricking hard over here. Lands every draw step. Well, there's a survival. So the opponent discards Anger. Plays Tormod's Crypt. And they've got a Wirewood Symbiote. Cool. Maybe we'll draw something this turn. Well, Attunement technically qualifies. I guess it's really a pretty good draw. We have a bunch of things that we can discard, so that's a step in the right direction. So we just have to dance around this Tormod's Crypt, and we just don't have any answers for it. All right, I guess Ancient Tomb, Adarkar Wastes, Plains. I guess we're just discarding all lands here. It's quite a while before we'd be able to do any double spelling. So the opponent did return Squee on their upkeep. Activates a Survival of the Fittest. Gets a Yavimaya Granger, so their boys are going to have haste. Here's the Granger that's going to grab the mountain to activate the Anger. Yeah, and would they have like 5 lands in play? I just don't see how I can... they're going to be able to survive up a Nantuko Vigilante. I don't really see any way around it. Because they would presumably, like, they can untap the Fyndhorn Elf with a Wirewood Symbiote by returning the Yavimaya Granger. That'll get them the mana on their end step. Unless they just don't have, like, creatures in their hand, and they also don't have Naturalize. Maybe they just don't play Nantuko Vigilante. All right, so they attack for 4. We don't have any blocks. Go into 13. Untapping the Fyndhorn Elf. And they're just holding up, presumably to activate their survival. So I did draw a Frantic Search here. I think we need to save that. And just deploy the Parallax Wave here. So the opponent's activating mana in response. Probably doesn't bode well. I think that I said that Elves seems like a pretty good matchup in game 1. Seems like it's not the case, as they're about to naturalize me here. And I don't think resetting the board helps. Alright, so the opponent has infinite mana now with this Cradle. Bunch of dudes. Activate Survival of the Fittest. And now they've got Deranged Hermit. And, okay, so yeah, what they can do is bounce the Deranged Hermit and play it again. And that'll give them enough hasty boys to attack for the win. Yeah, so now they've got 18 or so power. All right, we'll offer up the GGs and call it a wrap here. I mean, what we were gonna draw. Yeah, you know, the sideboard cards, like drawing Annul would have been good. I guess maybe the first hand was fine. I mean, really, we're hoping to draw a lot there. Well, this is like the second league I've tried to play with Replenish. First time, you know, making the playoffs. Like top 16, I think technically counts. In the CPL. So there are lists that play like 3 Opalescence, 3 Parallax Wave, and 3 Parallax Tide. And then you see like Wrath of Gods in the sideboard and some mana leaks in the main deck. And so maybe, I guess I can see why you'd want a card like Wrath of God. The Wave is just quite susceptible to disenchant. And just if they have the Tormod's Crypts also. I wonder how many Tormod's Crypts they play. Let's see, so this was the opponent's Elves list from a few tournaments ago. And so they got like 4 Naturalizes in the sideboard. Tranquil Domain and 3 Tormod's Crypts. So, yeah, they certainly drew their 3 Tormod's Crypts. I mean, I think the plan in game 2, I guess like mulliganing, this deck mulligans pretty well for the most part, except for when it doesn't. And you just would have to think they would only find 1 Naturalize in their top 15 cards. But if they have Tranquil Domain too, then not a lot you can, you know, that's much more likely they'd manage to hit 2 disenchant effects. And I suppose they've got, let's see, there's just 1 Nantuko in the sideboard, yeah, and 1 in the main as well. I guess it was a pretty uninteractive hand on their draw there. Well, I like what the deck does well enough. I'm not sure if I want to make any changes. I guess maybe like Exalted Angel. A little underwhelming in this league. Well, I guess the one change I'd make I talked about before. Probably cutting an Orim's Chant for another Tsabo's Web. And then I guess I would just try to draw. Like Elves does seem like a tricky matchup where it can go wrong in a hurry. I think we basically had the right sideboard plan and just could not quite get there. But all right, well, we'll be back. Yeah, Replenish, a tricky deck with a lot of different ways you could build it. I think what the deck is doing is pretty good, but certainly that last match was frustrating. We'll be back in the next CPL with some new content. Yep. Thanks for watching. All right, bye.